What is up, guys? So in today's video we had a customer bring in his Talaria MX3 and wanted to do some upgrades. So today we will be installing these Fast Ace. This is the 50-pound spring fork. A lot better upgrade than the stock ones. I believe these are the RST Killa forks. Not the best fork. I like these Fast Aces, if anything, and with a higher pound spring for those big jumps and stuff like that. We also got our Fast Ace brakes. Now this is one of the best deals for brake sets, I believe, for these bikes. For $200 you can get front and rear, and they also come with all the hardware needed, so new bolts, disc brake bolts and everything like that. And it also comes with 2 disc brake rotors, which is pretty sick for $200. Most of the Magura, Shimano brakes that you get, Hope, they're all gonna be around $250 just for one side. So you're spending about $500 on brakes, and they don't even come with disc rotors. We also got the Warp 9 gold handlebar. I believe these are a 3-inch rise, so gonna be a little bit taller in the cockpit area, which adds for comfort for the bigger riders out there. We also got the Luna golden foot pegs. We got some ODI grips, and he's also replacing his broken headlight. So before we start any work on the Talaria, we want to make sure, just for safety reasons, we want to turn off the breaker and remove the battery, which I already did. So before I start work on any bike, that's the first thing I want to do. Take off the battery, remove the key, and make sure the breaker switch is off. We also want to do a visual inspection of the bike. Make sure everything is in order or working order. Make sure there's nothing majorly wrong with the bike. Oh, as I can see here, this front axle is a little bit loose, I believe. But we will be replacing this with our new fork. Yeah, and I also want to keep in mind, like, checks for stuff like this. We can see that right here, he's missing a headlight bolt. So we're also gonna have to find one of those. Yep, inspecting the front area. Alrighty, so let's get straight into the install. So the first thing I'm gonna start off with is these handlebars. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that all of these zip ties are undone. Take off this number plate. Just basically clear everything up and make sure that everything is out of the way, so we can take off these handlebars and swap it easily with those Warp 9 handlebars. Okay, I'm gonna start unclipping all of these zip ties, and we're gonna start removing the brakes, the throttle, any switches that are up here. We're gonna remove those from the handlebars. And I'm going to show you folks a trick on how to remove these grips if you have an air compressor. Okay, I'm going to start by removing the grips. An easy trick if you have an air compressor is use a nozzle like this. You're going to want to stick this underneath the grip and blow it off. And it should come out really, really easily. Just like that. And same with the throttle side. Oh yeah, you can tell he used some type of glue or adhesive. So before putting on our grip, our new grips, we're gonna want to clean all of this stuff off. But now that we got the grips off, we're gonna start by taking off our throttle and our brakes. So just getting these a little loose. I believe this display is like a 2 or 3 millimeter. Actually a 2.5. Okay, just getting them a little bit loose. Okay, now that everything is loose, we're gonna start by undoing these stem bolts and removing the handlebar. Okay, now we're gonna remove the handlebar. That's weird. Looks like there's some tape in here. And then we're gonna start by removing all these brakes and switch components and the throttle and the display. Okay, we got the new Warp 9 handlebar, and we're gonna put all of these components back onto this bar, or on this new bar. So a trick with tightening up these stems, you want to finger tighten these bolts until both the top and bottom space right there is equal. Then you're gonna want to go in a crisscross pattern, meaning tighten this one, then going across, tightening this one, across to that one, and then that one after. Okay, so we got all the brakes, throttle, switches, and display put back on the bike. I left everything loose because we're gonna have to take these off later to install the new brakes. I just wanted everything on here and mounted up just so it's not hanging and dangling around when we're doing these forks. But now I'm gonna start by removing the front fork. I'm going to remove this front wheel first, disconnect the brakes over here. Also going to disconnect this and loosen up the headset. So let's get that started. Okay, now that we got everything removed, got the front wheel removed, I removed the brake and also the brake line holder that was right over here. It's a good time to change out that front brake that we're going to be replacing with the Fast Ace. I'm also going to start by removing these fork or loosening up all of these fork bolts so we can easily remove the fork. A trick to these triple clamps too is also to loosen up these sanctions individually and individually take them out, so you don't have to hold up and support everything. I'll show you what I mean later in this video. Okay, so we got the forks removed. Not the full forks. What we did was we just loosened the bolts on the triple clamps so we could slide those sanctions out. We got right over here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work on removing this triple clamp. And then I'm gonna work on the hardest part is removing this race. So wish me luck with that. Alrighty, so I remove the triple clamp or the triple crown on the fork. Um, this is the race that I was talking about. That's gonna be really hard to remove. But yeah, let's try to get that thing off without damaging it. Alrighty guys, so I think I managed to get it. A trick I do is using a really small flathead screwdriver and just going in and wiggling all around. You want to make sure you don't put too much pressure too, because you might bend that seal. But yeah, just slowly go around, wiggle it like that, and it should come right off. The new forks, the Fast Ace, don't come with this race, and you need this race because the bearing sits on it so it doesn't rub against your frame. Okay, so we have the old triple clamp or steer tube that we took off the bearing and the race from, and we're going to remove those. Remove this. And before we put it on a new one, we're going to want to clean it. But before we do that, we want to grease it up. Make sure you coat it really good. And we can always wipe off excess grease. We'll put the spacer in first. And let's clean up this bearing. Make sure you roll it a couple times because there could be trapped dirt, dust, and old grease in there. Okay, so I just got some street clean. This is just like a regular bicycle degreaser. And I'm going to degrease the bearing and the race because there's a lot of gunk and okay, and then we're gonna go with the air compressor. Go on this side. And I'm just gonna take the air compressor and shoot out all the loose degreaser. We want to make sure that when we put our new and fresh oil in there, that there's not gonna be any of that degreaser. Then before applying or putting on our race, we're gonna put one more layer of grease in between the spacer and the race. Put on our race, one more coat of grease. And since we use some degreaser on this, we really want to pack this really tight with some grease. I'll put that on. I like to just pack it on there. I like to brush it on every single bearing and then rotate them a little bit so that you make sure you get full coverage. And the next thing we have to do is we have to install a star nut. That is what puts pressure on your headset bearings and your stem, so that you can tighten up your handlebars and make sure that your bearings and your stem is clamped in place. Okay, now we have to install our star nut. So I have my star nut installer tool. This is what we use to pound the star nut into place. Sometimes when you're pounding it in, the bottom steer tube comes out, so I like to support that on something like that. Make sure it's leveled, and let's pound that in. Okay, so I just degreased and cleaned out the headset and the steer tube. Look how nice that looks now, like brand new. I'm gonna take this HCB1. It's a corrosive barrier, and I'm just gonna coat the inside of the steer tube, not the bearing area, but I'm gonna apply some grease in that area. And look how good we were able to clean up this headset bearing. Looks pretty much brand new. Just wiped it down, sprayed some degreaser, then made sure to blow out all of that degreaser, dried it up. Now we're gonna grease this all up and put it in. Now with this one, since I did use the degreaser and take out all the old grease, I'm gonna make sure to really pack that grease in and install the race. Okay, got the Fast Ace front lever. Okay, now I'm working on removing the old headlight, installing the new light. At the same time, since I have this open, I'm also going to be removing the old brake sensors from the stock brakes. And then I'm going to be also installing the rear brake. So I got to take all of this off, all of these panels, to remove the old brake and install the new one. So that should be fun. Okay, that took a little longer than expected, but we got the handlebars, we got the new light on, we got the Fast Ace forks, and we got the front brake on. So now I'm gonna work on getting the rear brake, getting the hose all put together and installed. So let's get right into it. Also going to be installing these Luna foot pegs too. Alrighty guys, so we pretty much finished up the whole bike, but it's almost 7 o'clock and almost time to clock out. So We're gonna leave those pegs for somebody else to do tomorrow. But I finished up my job. Got on the Fast Ace forks, degreased, lubed up the headset bearings, also installed these Warp 9 handlebars, also did the front and rear Fast Ace brakes. Yep. With those pegs, the gold pegs, this is gonna look pretty smooth looking bike.